Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be looking at some various commentary from the United States. What is going on in the United States in regards to what I'm calling the Judeo-Islamic War of 2023. And so we're going to start off with U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, who said in an interview at CNN that the U.S. government has no restrictions on civilian casualties in the Gaza Strip. So the United States is agreeing to violate all international norms and laws, war crimes. They've thrown out any notion, any plausible deniability that they aren't war criminals. They are very clearly the evil empire. And so let's go on to see. It says he basically admits that the U.S. is going to slaughter all civilians if it must, including the children that they are already slaughtering. There are no boundaries anymore. The TV host asked the senator if he or the United States had a civilian casualty limit, at which he would say, well, let's give it a rest. So what they're saying is, one enemy for every 100 civilians, is that okay? Like one enemy for every 1,000 civilians, is that okay? What's the limit? And he goes on to say a very genocidal comment and just mask off these people are satanic. No, of course not. It's like after World War II, we were asked, shouldn't you have taken a break while Japan and Germany take over the world? Should Israel take a break from fighting those who are trying to exterminate the Jews? The answer is no. There are no limits. Grant emphasized. Okay, so just heinous war criminal here. Let's hear him directly say this because it's so shocking that it's hard to believe that that's truly what was said. So let's just listen to it directly.
Civilian casualties.
Is there a threshold for you, and do you think there should be one for the United States government, at which the U.S. would say, let's hold off for a second in terms of civilian casualties? Is there a point at which you would start to question?
If somebody asked us after World War II, is there a limit what you would do to make sure that Japan and Germany don't conquer the world? Is there any limit what Israel should do to the people who are trying to slaughter the Jews? The answer is no. There is no limit. But here's what you need to do. Be smart. Civilian casualties.
Is there a threshold for you?
I'm pretty stunned. It just sounds so much worse when you actually hear him directly say it. Like, typically these things are taken out of context, but like he's just evil. Just evil. Like, you don't want to believe in like demonic forces, Satan, like it's like that's paranormal, supernatural types of things, but like holy moly, this person, is he like an evil alien lizard person? Like his response is inhuman. And like there's no guilt or shame there. Like he doesn't care that what he's saying goes against everything that actual human beings believe in. I don't know. Oh, that's just wild. Just wild. Let's go on now. So this actually isn't normal. America has become more bloodthirsty, more heinous, more inhumane, more willing to violate war crimes over time. So here we see in 2002, George Bush strongly denounced Israel for killing Hamas top militant leader because 7 kids were killed in the same strike. Now they're killing hundreds. Like, do you see this line that has been crossed over and over and over again to the point where it's like, there's no limit to the amount of civilian casualties they're willing to allow if they say that there was at least one person there that they actually wanted to kill. Just wild that we are at that point. So today, Israel killed and wounded 400 Gazans in Jabalia refugee camp to allegedly kill a single Hamas platoon commander, and not a single word of condemnation from the United States and the EU. So, yeah, it used to be that those things were heavy-handed if you had 7 children die for one Hamas, for one enemy. And now it's hundreds of innocent lives. So what else do we have here? We see the Pentagon confirms that the U.S. commandos have been deployed to Israel. Israel and the U.S. are driving the world to World War III, but when it all kicks off, they'll point the finger elsewhere. So yeah, we've been saying this. We've heard from Yemen sources. We've heard from Gaza sources. I think Hezbollah has even come out and talked about this a little bit as well. But it does seem like America has boots on the ground, just like they seemingly have boots on the ground in Ukraine. And I've been saying for a while now that given the wide variety of different equipment that are in the Ukrainian theater of this world war, that there's no way that the Ukrainians could be trained in that in such a short amount of time. And so they had to have operators from the West who are actually doing a lot of the work in terms of the technology, understanding the technology, and utilizing the technology. So here we see from the New York Times, American commandos are in Israel helping to locate hostages, Pentagon says. And why would you ever believe that they're going to stop there? Because United States, well, one, what does it mean to locate the hostages? Does that mean that you can actually attack Gaza? Because I think you could even stretch this to say that, yes, that does mean you could attack Gaza if you're trying to help locate the hostages. Okay, so Defense Department official Christopher P. Meyer declined to say how many U.S. Special Forces were currently in Israel, but other U.S. officials say the Defense Department has dispatched several dozen commandos in recent days. And we have a huge troop buildup. We have a huge warship buildup. I heard that the amount of warships in the Mediterranean Sea is the most it's been since the end of World War II. These things are escalating. They're not de-escalating. We need to understand that America, the West, is becoming more demonic, more satanic. They are willing to kill more anti-Zionist forces, even if it's innocent lives. We say women and children, but also there are innocent men. It's not every Palestinian male that is a part of Hamas. You can't just go indiscriminately killing hundreds of people in order to get at one. And there's been some interesting things being said in recent times about, like, well, if there's like a school shooter, do you bomb the entire school in order to get at the school shooter? It wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But for some reason, Westerners are buying in that it does make sense to bomb an entire refugee camp in order to get at one Hamas leader. Okay, so we see a very influential person on Twitter, Daniel, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, Hakika Tetaju, who's saying, I feel like I butchered his last name, so if he ever watches it, I apologize. I'm just not good at pronouncing names. But we see, he says, when people speak of Arabic normalization with Israel, the Abraham Accords, and economic integration in the Middle East, it does not mean Arab and Muslims moving to Israel to do business. Quite the opposite. Arabs are killed and efforts are being made to expel them from Israel. We're seeing that right now with the Gaza genocide and also the West Bank genocide. So all Palestinians are essentially being genocided right now. What it means is the settling of Jewish diasporas in Arab lands, beginning in Dubai, Riyadh, and Neom. Then we see Jews are 2% of the U.S. population and 0.5% of the UK population in both countries that have enjoyed enormous economic success and now constitute a central component of the elite. Okay, so you see that the American elite, whether it's neoconservatives, neoliberals, 40% of the billionaires within America are Zionists, very controlling share. They're overrepresented by over 1,000% in government positions. This has enabled them to reshape the culture and politics of both countries. Yes, I would say that a lot of the ethics of America right now are very Zionist ethics instead of Christian ethics. And so it doesn't take much. You just have to control the media entertainment apparatus, and then you can control things like the education system and the government as well. And those are really the core areas. And if you have people concentrated in them, you can take control of a country pretty easily. This has contributed to the decline of the majority's traditional Christian religious identity and the creation of a culture centered on individualism and the rights of minorities, which is, he's talking about the Zionist minority here. And when he's talking about individualism, and I've talked about this as well, individualism is an abomination. It did not exist before a few hundred years ago. And individualism, the people who individualism most works for are the people who aren't individualist. Because if you have a few people who are really strong, but they're individualist, and they're facing off against a group of people who are collective, it's the cohesive group, the tribe, that defeats the individuals, even if the individuals by themselves are strong, okay? And that's how it always is. And so when you have a Zionist collective in an individualistic society, and they're fomenting individualism so people don't rise up as a tribe to fight against Zionism, then that's what's going to happen. The small tribe that is cohesive is going to outcompete the individuals who are not cohesive. We've seen that time and time again. I mean, me saying it, sure, it makes it explicit, but you have a ton of examples within Western society that prove what I'm saying to be true. So he goes on to say, Daniel here, what do you think will happen once countries like the UAE and Saudi have been settled by Zionists such that they constitute 2% of the population? What about the likely scenario where they become 5% or more of the population? So because these Gulf states tend to be very low in terms of population, and the Zionist birth rate is so high, that could easily be the case that it's 5% or more of the population. So various colonies of Zionism, which would eventually lead to a greater Israel, which they've been trying to make, and which is one of the reasons that they're pushing the Palestinians out of Gaza right now. It should also be noted that unlike the population of the US and UK, populations in the Gulf Arab states do not have a record of creating successful businesses, technological innovations, and like. Quite the opposite. They have simply lived off of oil extraction. If Zionists have succeeded economically when competing against populations in the US and UK, what is to be expected in the Gulf? So, really interesting comments here from this person who is a very famous, very influential person. Let me look just specifically. Okay, founder at themuslimskeptic.com, founder of Al-Lazna Institute, writer and lecturer on Islam and modernity. I'm going to have to follow his Telegram channel as well. So anyways, that is what we have for you today. Really interesting commentaries on what is going on in the United States and how United States policy is influenced by Zionist actors throughout the world, and how we would never allow those types of things to occur for other countries, but for some reason we allow Israel to have that degree of control over America. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Rumble. We're also trying to get into podcasts. I have no idea if that's actually working, but I've tried on like Spotify and others. So we will see if the podcast thing ends up working out. I try to like verbalize everything that I'm commenting on too, so like it would actually work without you actually seeing the screen. So we'll see. Podcasts, trying new things all the time. Anyways, I'll leave us a comment in the comment box below. Any questions, concerns, critiques you might have. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.